Hi everyone, welcome back to our another JavaScript project. And in this JavaScript project, we are going to create a simple image search application. And here in my screen, you can see that we have a heading image search app, and then we have a search option, we have an input section, and then we have a button here. And here at the bottom, we have some three examples of images with some text. Now, if I go here and if I search by dog and then type enter, here you can see that we have a lot of images and the text, and at the bottom we have a show more button also. Now if I click on this show more button, here you can see that we can now see more dog images with a little bit of description. And if I click on this show more again, it will show other dog images as well. And we can click on this show more button again and again. But now if I go to the top and if I search for another keyword, suppose programming, and then type enter, here you can see that we have some images related to programming. And if we click on this show more button, we can see other programming images as well. So this is a pretty basic JavaScript project for you guys, and we are going to create this image search application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript completely from scratch, step by step. But before we do that, if you guys are new in my channel, then please do subscribe this channel, like this video and press the bell icon for the future videos. And if you guys have any question about this video, then please do let me know in my comment section. Now let's get started. First we have to create a new folder, and inside this folder what we have to do is, on the top here you have to type cmd, and here you have to type code, then dot, then type enter. And this command will simply open up your Visual Studio Code. And now from here we have to create a new file, and the file name will be index.html. And after creating the index.html file, we have to create a style sheet. So that's why I will simply type Ctrl-N to create a new file, and the Ctrl save for saving this file. And the name of this file will be a style.css. Then we have to create a new file and save the file. And now we have to create a JavaScript file. So that's why the file name would be script.js. That's it. Now here you can see that we have created our index file, our style sheet and our script file as well. Now go to our index file, and here we have to simply create a HTML boilerplate. So that's why it will be colon and then type enter. And here you can see that we have our simple HTML boilerplate. And after our title, now we have to link our style sheet. So that's why let's add link, and it will be a style.css. And inside our body, we have to create our script file as well. So that's why it will be script. And here we have to add the source, and the source will be script.js. That's it. Now here you can see that inside our HTML file, we have linked our style sheet and we have linked our JavaScript file as well. Now simply save. Now if I open this file with our live server, and it will be looking like this, an empty white background. Now let's separate the screens. That's it. Now first what we have to do is, if I go to our website, here you can see that we have a heading. So we have to simply create this heading. So for creating the heading, let's go to inside our body, and then we have to create a h1 and then type the heading name. And after our heading, here you can see that we have an input section and a button. So we have to create a form element. So let's create a form, and right now the action will be empty. And here first we have to create the input section. So that's why let's create an input, and the type will be text. Then we have to use a ID, and the ID will be search input. And then we have to add a placeholder, and the placeholder will be search for images. And then we have to create our button, and for the button we have to add an ID as well, and the button ID will be search button, and the text will be search. Now save. And if I go to our website, here you can see that we have our heading, and then we have our input section, and then we have our search button. Now after this one, if I go to our website, and here you can see that by default we have 3 images inside our home page. So we have to create these 3 images. Basically they are 3 templates, and we are going to use these templates for fetching other images from our API. And for doing that, let's go to our HTML and then let's create a div tag, and the class name of this div tag will be search results. And inside this div tag we have to create another div tag, and the class name of this div tag will be search result. And now first we have to create our this image, so that's why let's create an image tag. And for the image source we are going to use Unsplash. So for doing that, open up our browser, and here you have to search for unsplash.com. and here you can see that we have many images, and we can take any images from here. So I will simply take this first one, and from this image I will simply click right, and from here I will simply copy image address. And if I go to our HTML, and inside our source I will simply paste the URL, and for the alt I will simply write anything. It will be mountains under the sky. That's it. Now save. And if I go to our website, we have an image, and after this image we have to create an anchor tag. And for the anchor we have to go to our browser, and here you can see that we have our this image, and I will simply copy this URL and then go to our HTML and then paste it here inside our href. And here we have to add a target, because if anyone click on that link, then I want to create a new tab for that link. So that's why we have to use target, and the target will be underscore blank. And here the text can be anything. So I will simply copy this mountains under the sky and then paste it here. Now save. And if I go to our website, here you can see that we have our image, and here we have our link as well. Now what we have to do, we have to create 2 more images and 2 more links. So for doing that, let's go to our HTML, and I will simply copy this div and then paste it 2 more times. Now save. And if I go to our website, here you can see that we have 3 images here. Okay. Now we have to style these images, because all these images is now in one column, but I want them to take a specific width and height, and to arrange them in one row. So for doing that, we have to add a stylings. And for a styling, let's go to our style sheet. First of all, what we have to do is, if I go to our website, here you can see that we have a default font family, but right now I want to use a different font family. So for doing that, let's go to our browser and create a new tab and search for Google Fonts, and open up this first link. And here you have to search for Poppins. Click on this, and from here I will simply select all the necessary weight, and here on the top this icon, and here you can see that we have all the selected width for the font family Poppins. Now simply click on this import, and from here I will simply copy this import URL, copy, and then go to our style and then paste it here. That's it. And after this one, we have to use some default stylings for our page, and those stylings will be margin 0, then padding 0, then box sizing will be border box, and then we have to use the font family. So for using the font family, let's go to our browser again, and here you can see that we have CSS rules. So I will simply copy this font family rule from here and then paste it here. Now if I save, and if I go to our browser, here you can see that we have now Poppin as our font family. Great. Now let's do the stylings, and for doing that, let's go to our style sheet, and here we have to use body, and inside the body I will use a line height for our text, and it will be 1.6. After this one, we have to style our h1, our heading, and the stylings will be this one: font size 36 pixel, font width bold, text align center, margin 14 pixel from top, 0 pixel from left, 60 pixel from bottom, and 0 pixel from right. Now save, and if I go to our browser, here you can see that we have our text in the center. This is our heading. Now we have to style our this input section and our this button. So for doing that, we have to target our this form, and for the form we have to use display flex, then justify content center, then align items center as well. Then I want to add some margin from the bottom, so that's why we have to use margin bottom, and it will be 60 pixel. Now save, and here you can see that our input section and our button is now in the center, and we have some spacing as well. Now we have to style our this input section, so that's why let's go to our input, and here you can see that inside our input we have a ID which is search input. So I'll simply copy this ID and then go to our style sheet and then paste it here. First of all, I will give a width of this input, and width will be 60%, and I will add a max width as well, and it will be 400 pixel. Then I want to add some padding inside, and it will be 10 pixel from top and bottom, 20 pixels from left and right. Then I don't want any border, so that's why the border will be none. Then I want to add some box shadow, and the box shadow will be 0 pixel from X, 0 pixel from Y, and 6 pixel for the depth of shadow. And then we have to add a RGB color, and it will be 0, 0, 0 and 0.2. And I want to add a border radius, and it will be 5 pixel. Then I want to add a font size, and it will be 18 pixel. Then I want to add a color, text color, and the text color will be this one. Now save, and here you can see that we have a beautiful search section. And after this search, we have to style our this button as well. So for doing that, let's go to our index.html file. And here you can see that for our button we have an ID as well. So I will simply copy this ID and then paste it here. First of all, I will add some padding, and the padding from top and bottom will be 10 pixel, from left and right it will be 20 pixel. Then I want to add a background color, and that color will be this one, 138065. And then I want to change the text color, and text color will be white. Then I don't want any border, so that's why border will be none. Then I want to add a font size, and the font size will be 18 pixel. Then I want this box shadow, so simply copy this box shadow and then paste it here. Then I want to add a cursor pointer. Then border radius will be 5 pixel, same as the input. And then I want to add some space here on the left side of our button, so that's why I will use margin left, and it will be 10 pixel. Now save, and here you can see that now our button is looking good as well. Okay, now after this one we have to style our these 3 images. So for styling these 3 images, let's go to our index.html, and here we have a class name search results. So I will simply copy this search results class name and then paste it here. First of all, here you can see that all the images is now in one column, but I want them in one row, so that's why I will use display flex. Okay, I will simply copy the stylings. That's it. We have justify content space between, because I want to add some space in between of these images. And the flex wrap will be wrap. Margin width will be 1200 pixel, and the margin from top and bottom will be 0, and from left and right it will be auto. Now save. Now after doing this, let's target our this box, this search result box. And here I want to add some margin bottom, and it will be 60 pixel. Then I want to add a width of 30%. Then height will be 100%. Then I want to add a border radius, and it will be 5 pixel. Then I want to add the same box shadow. So simply copy this box shadow and then paste it here. Then I don't want any overflow, and that's why it will be hidden. Now save. And here you can see that our images is now in one row, and they are now simply taking 30% of width. And then now here what I want to do is, this images is not taking the proper width and height, so that's why we have to simply copy this search result and then target our images inside that box. And here I will simply specify the width of 100% and the height of 100% as well. Now if I save, here you can see that this image is now taking the proper width and height. But I want to add another property, and it will be object fit, and it will be cover. That's it. Now I want to add some hover effect. If I go to our website and if I do hover on our these images, here you can see that our opacity is slightly decreasing. So I want that effect as well. So for doing that, what we have to do is we have to simply copy this image and then paste it here. And if I hover on our card, if I hover on our box, then I want to simply decrease the opacity. Right now the default opacity is 1, but I want to decrease the opacity and it will be 0.8. Now save. And if I now hover, here you can see that our images is now decreasing the opacity, but this effect is too fast. So I want to add some smooth hover effect. So for doing that, here we have to add a transition, and it will be opacity 0.2 second is in out. Now save. And if I now hover, here you can see that we have a smooth hover effect. Now after these images, I want to style our these links. So for doing that, simply copy this class name, search result, and then paste it here. Then target our anchor tag, and for our anchor tag, the stylings will be this one, font size 20 pixel, text decoration will be none because I don't want any underline, and the color will be this one, display will be block, padding will be 10 pixel from everywhere, and then text transform will be capitalized. Now save, and here you can see that we have our text, and this text is looking good as well. Now after these images, I want to add a show more button as well. If I go to our website, here you can see that initially you won't see any button, but if I simply type anything and then search for it, and if I scroll down here, you will find a show more button. That's why we have to create this show more button in our website as well. So for doing that, let's go to our index.html, and after our this main div, if I scroll down, after our main div, we have to create a button, and the button name will be show more, and we have to create an ID as well for this button, and the ID will be show dash more dash button. That's it. Here you can see that we have a show more button. Now I will simply style the show more button, so that's why I copy this ID and then go to our style and then paste it here. And for this button, the stylings will be this one. Background color, we have to add a background color. Font size will be 18 pixel. Border will be none because I don't want any border. Then the text color will be white. Padding will be 10 pixel from top and bottom, 20 pixel from left and right. Text align will be centered. Then display will be block. Margin will be 30 pixel from top and bottom, and auto from left and right, so that we can place this button in the center. And the border radius will be 5 pixel. Cursor will be pointer, and the display will be none. Okay. But for now, I will simply comment out this line and save. Here you can see that we have a beautiful show more button. Now if I go to our website and if I refresh the website, here you can see that initially we do not have any show more button. If any user types a keyword and they type enter or click on the search button, then only I will show our this button. Okay, that's why right now I don't want to show this button here. So I will simply uncomment this line and save. Here you can see that we do not have the show more button here. So guys, here you can see that we have successfully styled our this web page, but this web page is not responsive. Okay, so we have to make this web page responsive. So for doing that, we have to use media query at the rate media screen, and we have to add a max width, and the max width will be 768 pixel. And here you can see that right now our this boxes is now taking 30% of the screen, but in our 768 pixel, which is our tablet screen device, I want this card to take a little bit of more space, a little bit of more screen. So that's why we have to simply target our search result class name, and here I will simply increase the width of 45%. Now save, and here you can see that our this images is now taking 45% of our this screen. And after our tablet screen, I want to add the media query for our small screen device as well. And in our small screen device, I want our these images to take the complete space. Okay, so for doing that, I will simply copy this media query and then paste it here. and the pixel for our small screen device, it will be 480 pixel, and the width will be 100%. Now save. That's it. Now here you can see that our image is now taking the complete space. And now one thing we have to do is we have to add some space around these boxes. So that's why we will simply target our search results class name, and here I will add padding from everywhere. It will be 20 pixel. Now save, and here you can see that we have now a space of 20 pixel around our screen. And now we can say that this image search app is responsive. Here you can see that in our large screen device our images is in one row, and if I decrease the space of our screen, here you can see that our image boxes is adjusting the width according to the screen size. And that's it guys, we have styled our image search app, and we have also made this page responsive for medium screen device and a small screen device as well. Now we have to do the main part, which is our JavaScript part. Okay, what we have to do is, if a user search any keyword here and then type enter, and based on that keyword we have to fetch some images and show those images in our screen. Now we are going to get all those images from unsplash.com. Unsplash will give us an API so that we can fetch their images inside our website. And for getting that API access, you have to create an account inside the unsplash.com. I have already created an account, so that's why I will simply click on this bar, and here you can see that under the product section we have a developers/API. So I will simply click on this link, and you will be redirected inside this page. And from here on the top you will find your apps. Simply click on this your apps, and here you can see that I have already created an image search app demo for this website. Now we have to create a new API for this newly created website, and for doing that you have to simply click on this new application and then simply tick all of this and then accept terms. And here you have to add a name, so I will simply add a tutorial image search, and you can add any description for this application, and I can write this is a demo image search app and then create application. And if you scroll down here you will find a key section, and inside this key you will find this access key. Okay, now I will recommend you not to use this key. You just create an account and then you can get a API access key like this one for yourself. So I will simply copy this access key and then go to our script, and inside this script we have to first store that access key inside a variable. So let's create a const, and the variable name will be access key equal to, and inside the colon we have to paste the access key. Okay, now after getting the access key, what we have to do is we have to take all the important elements from our HTML, and we have to store those elements inside variables inside this script file. If I go to our website, here you can see that this search option is important, because based on the user keyword this application will show us the images, and that's why we need to get this input element, then we need to get this search element, and then we need to get this search results element. Okay, this container, this image containers. Okay, and after that one we need to get our show more button also. Okay, so now we have 4 important things to store inside our script file. So that's why we need to create const. First I will store this input section inside a variable. So the variable name will be form element, and we need to take that element from inside our index.html. So that's why we have to use document.querySelector. And if I go to our index, here you will find a form. So simply copy this form and then paste it here. After our form we have to take this input section. So that's why let's create another variable const, and it will be input element, And for getting that input element, we have to use document dot, and we have to use get element by ID. And if I go to our index, here you will find the search input ID. So I'll simply copy this ID from here and then paste it here. And then we need to get this image container. So that's why we have to create a const, and the variable name will be search results. And for getting that, we need to use document dot query selector. And if I go to our index, here you will find a search results class name. And one thing you have to remember is, inside query selector, if you are using a class name, then you always need to add a dot and then that class name. Okay, you need to remember that. After this one, if we use const, and now we need to import our show more button also. So that's why we need to create another variable, and the variable name will be show more. Then take document dot get element by ID, and we have created a ID for our this show more button. Here we have show more button ID. So I will simply copy this ID and then paste it here. So guys, here you can see that we have now imported all the important elements from inside our index.html file to inside our script file. Okay, now we need to work on these variables. But first, what we have to do is we have to take another variable, and it will be let input data. And for now, the input data will be empty. Then we need to initialize the default page number. So the default page number will be 1, and if a user click on the show more button, then the page number will be increased, and we will do that later. And now here we have created two let variables, 5 const variables. Okay, now after all these variables, after all the declaration, now we need to enter inside our main part, which is our function. Okay, now let's create a function, and the function name will be search images. And inside this function, this input data will work, because this input data will store all the keywords which the user is typing inside this input section. So that's why we have to take the input data, and we will take the input data from inside our this input section, and this input section is stored inside our input element. So the input element dot values. Okay, now if a user type a keyword here and then type enter or the search button, then what our API will do, our API will take that keyword, and based on that keyword, our API will fetch images from unsplash.com. Okay, so for doing that, we have to create a dynamic URL. So that's why let's create const, and let's create a variable name URL. And here we need to create dynamic variable. So for creating the dynamic variable, we have to type backtick, and here we have to create our dynamic URL. So let's add https://api.unsplash.com/search/photos ? Then first we need to initialize the page number, because I want to get images from the first page always. So that's why the page number, and the page number will be dynamic. And for using a dynamic variable inside the URL, we need to use $ and then curly braces, and the page number will be this page. And after our page number, we have to use and. Now we need to add the keyword, so that's why we have to use query, and this query will be dynamic as well. So that's why we have to use $ then curly braces, and the query will be input data. Then we need to use our API, so that's why we have to add and client underscore ID, and this client ID will be also dynamic. So that's why we have to use $, then curly braces, and we will get our API access from our this access key. I'll simply copy this access key from here and then paste it here. That's it. Now depending on our this URL, our page, our input data, and our access key, our this URL will fetch all the data from Unsplash API and show those images inside our this website. So for doing that, we need to use fetch and response method. And for doing that, first of all, we have to convert our this function into an async function. So that's why we have to use async. That's it. Now let's create a variable for our response, and we need to use await and then fetch, and we will fetch all the data from inside our URL variable. Then we need to get the data, and we need to convert that data into a JSON format. Okay, so our data is now inside our this response variable, so we have to use response.json. Now here you can see that our this data variable is now holding all the JSON format, all the JSON data. Now we need to convert those JSON data into our these images and this text, and for doing that we need to store this JSON conversion into a variable. So that's why let's create a const and a results variable, and inside this results variable we need to store the results which we are getting from our data variable. After this one, first of all we need to initialize our page number, because here you can see that inside our dynamic URL our page number is our first priority, so that's why we have to initialize our page number. So that's why let's write if, and the page, if our page number is 1, then our search results dot inner HTML will be empty. Okay, after this one, here you can see that our all the results is now inside our this results variable. Now inside this results variable there are a lot of images, a lot of data. Okay, now we need to show images, we need to show the text one by one, so that's why we need to map this results variable. So for doing that, let's call our results, and we need to use map method, and here it will be result. Then we need to create a arrow function, and inside this function what we have to do is we have to push all the data inside our this template. Here you can see that inside our this template. Okay, now every time we search new images, what we have to do is we have to generate new boxes for new images, and for those images what we are going to do is we are going to simply use these pre-built templates. So that's why let's go to our script file, and here we have to create some variables so that we can push those variables inside our HTML template. So let's create const, and we need to first create a container so that we can hold those images, we can store those images inside that container. So the variable name will be image wrapper, and inside this image wrapper, first of all we have to simply create this div. So for creating this div, let's add document dot create element, and the element name will be div, and inside this element, inside this div element, we have a class name. Now we have to push this class name, so that's why copy this class name, and then target our image wrapper dot class list dot add, because we have to add the class name, and the class name will be search result. Then inside this search result we have an image, so we have to create this image element as well. So for doing that, let's take another variable, and it will be image, and then we have to use document dot create element, and the element will be image. Now inside our image, here you can see that we have a source, we have a alt section, so we need to add data inside this source and our alt. So that's why we have to target our image dot source, and we will get our sources from inside our result URL. So that's why let's use result dot urls dot small, and this small is basically for the thumbnail size. Here in Unsplash they use different image size for different purposes. For the thumbnails they use the small format, a small image size, so that's why we have to use this small. And for our alt, result dot alt underscore description, that's it. Now after our these images, if I go to our index, here you can see that we have an anchor tag, and we have to create this anchor tag as well. So that's why let's create a const, and it will be image link variable name, and we need to create an element, and here it will be anchor tag. Now inside our anchor tag, here you can see that we have our href section and our target section. So let's go to our JavaScript and take the image link. First of all, we need to add the href, and it will be result dot links dot html. after our href, we need to add the target section as well. So that's why let's take image link dot target, and the target will be blank. So underscore blank. Then what we have to do is we have to push this text also inside our link. So for doing that, we need to create image link dot text content, and it will be result dot alt underscore description. Now we have created our all the elements, our template, like our this div. Here you can see that we have our div, we have our image, and we have our anchor tag. And inside our JavaScript, we have created the same template. We have created the image wrapper as a div, image as an image tag, and image link as our anchor tag. Okay. After creating this, we have to also append those elements inside our HTML page. So for doing that, we have to simply use append child. So first, let's take our image wrapper variable, and it will be append child. And here we will use image. Then we have to use image wrapper again dot append child. We need to append the image link. Then we need to add the image wrapper again dot append child, and we need to append the image wrapper, which is our div. Okay. And here you can see that initially our page number is 1. And after showing our first phrase of images, we need to increase the page number. Okay, if there is any other images, then we need to increase the page number also. So for doing that, we need to use page plus plus for the page increment. And if the image query has page numbers more than 1, then we need to show the show more button also, so that user can go to the page number 2. So for doing that, we have to use if page is greater than 1, then we have to show the show more button. Right now the show more button is hidden. So for doing that, we have to use show more variable, which we have created on the top, this variable. Now show more dot style dot display, and this one will be block. Okay, because if I go inside our style sheet for our show more button, here you can see that the display is none. Okay, but we have to change this property into display block. So that's why we are using display block. Okay, now we have created our this complete function, but this function won't work because if anyone type any queries, what we have to do is we have to create event listener for this input section, so that the event listener can take that keyword and then run this function. So for doing that, simply get out of the function. Now we have to target our form element, which we have created on the top. Here you can see that this form element, and we have to add event listener here, and the event listener name will be submit. Then we need to pass the event. Then we have to create a function, arrow function. First of all, we have to prevent the default event. So that's why event dot prevent default. That's it. Then we have to initialize the page, and as I said earlier, the initial page will be 1. Then what we have to do is we have to call our this search image function. So simply copy this function name and then paste it here. Now we have created our function for our form element. Now what we have to do is at the bottom we will see a show more button, and if anyone click on that show more button, then I want to show more images. So that's why we have to call this search image function again. Okay, sorry, this one will be function search images. That's it. Okay, so what I was telling is we have to call this function again for our that show more button. So that's why I will simply copy this function and then paste it here. And but this time it will be show more, because if I go to the top, here we have a show more variable, and it will be show more add event listener. But this time it will be click, because it is a button and we have to click on that button. We don't need to pass any event here, and I will simply remove this event and a page number. Okay, now save. Okay guys, now we have successfully created our JavaScript part. Now let me give you a quick tour of our this script. Here you can see that we have created an access key variable so that we can store our API key, and then we have created a form element variable so that we can store our form, this complete form section. We have created our input element so that we can store our this input section. we have created our search results so that we can store our these images, these boxes, these containers. We have created our show more variable so that we can store the value of our this show more button. And then we have created input data so that we can store our all the input data which our user is writing here. It means the keyword. This input data will hold the keyword from here, and the by default page number will be 1. Okay. After that, we have to create a async function, and the function name will be search images. And we are using async because we are going to use response and the fetch. So that's why we have to use async. Here input data will hold the values from our this input section, and we have to create a dynamic URL based on that input data. Here inside our dynamic URL, we have a https api.unsplash.com/search because we are searching images /photos ? Page. Okay. First of all, we need to initialize the page. So the page will get from here. And now after that one, we have to add a query. It means the input data, this input data. So that's why we have to use that input data here. And then we have to use the client ID. Okay. And the client ID will be getting from our access key. And using this URL, dynamic URL, we have to use the fetch method as a response so that we can fetch the images based on the query. And after getting all the query, we have to convert that response into a JSON format, and all the JSON format data will be stored inside our data variable. And from that data, we have to get results, and those results will be stored inside our results variable. Okay. Now we have to use a if our page number equal to 1, then the search result will be this 3 default container. Okay. Now what we have to do is inside our this results variable, we have a lot of data, but for showing some data, we have to map each of this data. It means we have to map the results. So that's why results.map, and we will map the result. Okay. And after getting result, we have to push those results inside a container or a box like this. And if I go to our index.html file, here you can see that we have already created our these templates, this container. Now we have to create a duplicate container like this inside our script file. So that's why we have to first create an image wrapper. It will be the container, which is our div. And then we have to add a class name, and the class name will be search results like this one. After this, we have to create our image. So that's why we have to create another constant variable, and it will be image. Then we have to create the image element, and inside this image element, we have a source and alt attribute. Now we have to create the source and alt attribute, and we will be getting the source from results.url.small, and we will get the alt from result.alt description. After our image, here you can see that we have an anchor tag. Now we have to create this anchor tag. So that's why create a new element, and it will be anchor. And inside this anchor, we have a href and then target, and then this text. We have 3 things inside the anchor tag. That's why we have to create href, target, and text content. For the href, the value will be getting from the result.links.html, and for the target, it will be blank, and for the text content, it will be getting from the result.alt description. Okay. So after creating our this div, image, and anchor tag, now we have to append those things inside our web page. So that's why we have to use append child. Okay. First of all, we have to image wrapper, because inside our this image wrapper, we will use image. So that's why we have to use image. And inside this image wrapper, we have to use image link as well. And after our image wrapper, okay, I think there is something wrong. It will not be image wrapper, because image wrapper cannot be inside another image wrapper. Okay. It will be actually not image wrapper. It will be search results. Copy this variable and then paste it here. It will be search results. Inside our search results, we are going to append our div, and inside our div, we are going to append our image link, and inside our div, we are going to append our image. Okay. So this will be search results. Okay. So after our this first phrase of result, we have to increase the page number. And if the page number is greater than 1, then we have to change the stylings for our show more button. Okay. Right now in our style sheet, the show more button is display none, but we have to change that stylings if we have page number greater than 1, and the styling will be display block. So we have created all the functions. Now what we have to do, we have to simply call those functions. Okay. Now if anyone search a keyword here, then what we have to do, we have to call our this search image function. So that's why we have to use add event listener. So this is a form element. That's why you have to call form element, and we have to add event listener, and it will be submit, because if anyone click on this button or if anyone type enter here, then it will be submit. Okay. Then we have to target our event. We have to prevent default the event. Then the page number will be 1 initial page, and we have to call the function, and we have to call the same function again if anyone click on the show more button here. Okay. If anyone click the show more button here, then we have to call this function again. So this is it, our pretty much of JavaScript. Now let's go to our website and see if this JavaScript is working or not. Now if I search for cat, okay guys, now here you can see that we have now different cat images, and also we have now show more button. And this show more button is indicating that there are more images of cats. We can see those images as well. So that's why here we can see a show more button. Okay. Now if I click on this show more button, now here you can see that we have other images as well. Now one thing you have noticed here is that the sizes of this box of these images is not equal, but I want equal size. So for doing that, let's go to our style sheet, and let's go to inside our image. Here the height is 100%, but I will use 200 pixel. Now save. And here you can see that if I go to our website, all the images is now taking 200 pixel. That's it. Now it is looking much better, right? Now let's search another keyword, and it will be nature, and click search button. Here you can see that we have some images of nature, and if I click on this show more button, it will show us other images as well. So that's it guys. Here you can see that we have successfully created a simple JavaScript image search application. And for creating this project, we have used HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And after creating this project, we have also made this project responsive for different screen devices. Here you can see that for different screen devices, it is changing the size of the images and the container. And it is looking good. That's it guys. We have created another JavaScript project, and in this JavaScript project we have created image search application. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you guys really do, then please subscribe this channel, like this video, and press the bell icon for the future videos. And if you guys have any question about this video, then please do let me know in my comment section. That's it guys. See you in our another tutorial.